The day Stella Gordon won the Oscar for Best Actress, I was sitting right there in the audience. Holding the golden statuette, her smile bore no trace of the timidity and helplessness she had shown when she first came to me 5 years ago. Receiving this award, the person I must thank most is Julian Croft, my dear Mr. Julian. Her Mr. Julian wasn't me. Almost the moment Stella Gordon opened her mouth, everyone in the venue turned to me with looks of pity and astonishment, because they all knew that Stella Gordon's success today was entirely due to my guidance and support. I smiled silently and was the first to start clapping. And that girl who had lived in my heart since she was 16 ultimately vanished. The day Stella Gordon won the Oscar for Best Actress happened to be her 29th birthday. Truth be told, winning this award at 29 could hardly be considered early fame, but Stella Gordon had entered the industry late. It wasn't until 3 years ago that she filmed her first movie. A movie I personally crafted for Stella Gordon. Over those 3 years, I meticulously elevated Stella Gordon to the throne of box office queen. In every film I directed, she was unquestionably the leading lady. Because of this, I've offended quite a few people over these past 3 years. But I don't care. Watching that woman in the champagne-colored gown, standing under the spotlight on stage, my thoughts gradually drifted back to 3 years ago. 3 years ago, at 27, I'd already secured my place in Hollywood, hailed as the most talented director of our generation. My name alone was a guarantee of film quality, never a misstep. Yet no one knew I'd entered this industry for the sake of one person. For Stella Gordon. So when she appeared before me on that rainy night, drenched and dripping beneath my calm exterior, my heart was already churning with tumultuous waves. Unsettled Stella Gordon's body trembled from the cold as she stood on the steps below, looking up at me. Rainwater trickled down her neck, slipping into the collar of her dress. Director White, I heard you're casting the lead actress for your new film. I may just be a newcomer, but I've been studying acting diligently. I know a lot about your work. Could you please give me a chance to audition? I didn't say a word, just took off my coat and draped it over her shoulders. No audition needed. The role is yours. For a moment, Stella Gordon's face froze in stunned silence before being overtaken by a radiant, dazzling smile. Just like that midsummer, when she was 16, standing among a flock of pigeons in her sundress, becoming the turning point of my mundane life. There was a reason I had the courage to promise her that Stella Gordon was the prototype for every female lead in my scripts. I only film stories I've written myself, and she was my best choice. For 3 years, I spent countless sleepless nights draining every ounce of my inspiration to propel Stella Gordon toward that trophy. Before coming here, she told me that if she won this honor, she had a surprise for me. Stella Gordon stood smiling, her face on the big screen, flawlessly perfect. She was a born star, beautiful enough and ruthless enough. Thank you to my fans for supporting me all the way. It's because of them that I can stand here today, standing before you all. Stella Gordon's voice trembled slightly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. For a fleeting moment, I almost believed our gazes had met. There's someone I must thank. Her voice merged with the sound of my heartbeat. I couldn't hear any other noise, nor see anyone insignificant. Stella Gordon looked straight into my eyes, those crimson lips parting to deliver the cruelest words. The person I want to thank is Julian Croft, my Mr. Julian. Julian Croft, a Hollywood veteran, a former Oscar-winning actor. I caught the mocking smile at the corner of Stella Gordon's lips, and the spine I had just straightened moments ago now collapsed completely. It wasn't me, the person she wanted to thank. The person she wanted to have none of it was me. The venue was so vast, yet I felt like a clown with nowhere to hide, with everyone's eyes fixed on me. For the past 3 years, they've been so jealous, so resentful of how I doted on Stella Gordon, and now their mockery was just as intense. I looked at the photo of the girl in the white dress on my phone and smiled. Congratulations, starting with me. Applause spread throughout the venue. Julian Croft stepped onto the podium under the spotlight, then took the trophy while holding Stella Gordon's hand. He looked at Stella Gordon with a gentle smile. This trophy is what you deserve. I could already imagine what words would be used to praise them on Twitter tonight. Whether it's a match made in heaven, Hollywood's golden couple, or a powerful alliance. In any case, it has nothing to do with me. I suppose Stella Gordon no longer needs my protection. I stood up, and while everyone's attention was focused on those two, turned to leave discreetly through the side door. Yet the hostess' voice made me freeze mid-step. As everyone knows, every film Stella has starred in since her debut has been directed by White. Is there some special story behind this collaboration? I turned back, locking eyes with Stella Gordon across the room. For 3 years now, everyone who met me had gossiped about my relationship with Stella Gordon, yet I always just laughed it off and changed the subject. Stella Gordon was a rising star. Neither romance nor scandal meant anything to her, let alone rumors involving me. An actress and a director, I'd seen enough in Hollywood to know exactly how the tabloids would sensationalize such a pairing. In those words, no matter what, should never have been associated with Stella Gordon. I had expected Stella Gordon to brush it off with her usual diplomatic remarks as before, but for some inexplicable reason, she took the hostess bait and ran with it. The first time I met director White, he told me the female lead in his script was tailor-made for me. After our first collaboration, director White would approach me for every subsequent project. He was like a mentor to me, so I never refused. Stella Gordon's tone was gentle, yet I felt as if I plunged into an icy abyss. It was as if the girl who once held my hand begging me to help her had never existed at all. Julian Croft followed Stella Gordon's lead and said Stella is a talented actress with great looks, so it's perfectly normal for directors to take notice of her. However, I do hope certain individuals exploit their past favors to repeatedly coerce her. Julian Croft's words were pointed. He might as well have outright accused me of using Stella Gordon's name for marketing purposes. Yet the truth is I paid Stella Gordon every penny she earned for her performances, knowing she was unknown at the time. I even gave her 30 more for her first 2 projects. Now in her narrative I've been painted as someone who bullied others with power. I stood rooted to the spot, fists clenched, my heartbeat quickening with rage, yet Stella Gordon on stage still looked at me with that gaze. Haughty, indifferent, even disdainful. What right did she have? I knew this was the right moment to defend myself, so I simply turned and walked away. The live Twitter comment section had erupted into chaos. Stella Gordon and Julian Croft's fans naturally sided with them, while some more rational netizens still stood up for me. But as a director, my fan base couldn't compare to theirs at all. Before long, my Twitter account was overrun by furious netizens. The gossip media began making wild speculations, with some even claiming my films were nothing without Stella Gordon. Suppressing my anger, I prepared to reveal the truth on social media. After all, I still had my chat records with Stella Gordon saved. Yet just before publishing the post, I received a phone call from Stella Gordon. Leo the First, hope you can keep quiet about tonight's events. On what grounds? Or else I'll tell the media that you were responsible for your brother's death. Stella Gordon's tone was utterly devoid of emotion, chillingly indifferent. It felt like an arrow had pierced straight through my heart. I could feel the scalding blood pouring from my chest cavity, that gaping hole constantly letting in gusts of icy wind. But the one who hurt me was the girl I'd been unable to forget since I was 16. Stella Gordon, what gives you the right to treat me like this? I closed my eyes, my voice trembling uncontrollably, yet my vulnerability didn't evoke the slightest pity from Stella Gordon. This is what you owe her in this lifetime. I've never owed anyone anything except my brother. Stella Gordon hung up the phone after saying those words. Listening to the dial tone on the other end, I rested my head against the window. My brother died the year I turned 13. We were twins at birth because I had congenital heart disease. My parents abandoned me. I grew up in an orphanage until I was 8 when my brother happened to meet me by chance, and only then did we learn of each other's existence. From that day on, my brother and I started meeting frequently. His presence filled the void of family I'd been missing, easing my pain and sorrow. My brother told me that after our parents abandoned me, they fought day and night until they divorced not long after. He stayed with our mother, who later remarried another man. My brother was never happy in that family. On my 13th birthday, my brother promised to give me the gift our mother had given him, saying he'd received many presents before and that future gifts should rightfully be mine. But that day, I waited for him in vain. Snow blanketed the entire city. Tracing the route from memory, I followed the address he mentioned step by step, only to see a shocking splash of crimson on the snow-covered street. That was the color of blood. My brother lay on the ground, a basketball rolling beside him. Later, mother found me and kept me by her side, but she became mentally unstable due to my brother's death. She often called me by my brother's name, and I never stopped her. She divorced that man after my brother died. My heart condition miraculously healed. He gave me his heart before dying. My brother held my hand and said he was sorry for all these years leaving me alone to endure so much hardship. But in truth, no one has ever been more deserving of my gratitude than him. After graduating high school, I left home for a distant place. It was there that I met Stella Gordon. She probably doesn't remember me, just a boy she happened to meet once by the roadside. But I still remember her. I remember her dancing gracefully among the doves, her loud laughter, her bright and radiant face. I also remember the small daisy she placed beside me. Are you my fan? Don't be sad. You've received flowers from your idol, so cheer up. Let me light up your world. Stella Gordon reached out and poked the corner of my mouth, lifting it into the curve of a smile. I just stared at her in a daze, as if in that moment I truly saw the angel my brother had spoken of. Leo, what about tonight's situation? The assistant's voice snapped me out of my reverie. I opened my eyes to stare at the darkened phone screen. They often speak of muses, and in the past Stella Gordon truly was mine. But now she was nothing. I lifted my head and gazed at the moonlight outside, veiled by dark clouds. Then he sent that article. Stella Gordon, you still don't understand me. You don't realize that some wounds for me have long since faded into the past. How could it possibly become a reason to hinder my steps now? For by the time I got home, my phone had already been blown up by Stella Gordon. When I didn't answer the phone, she started frantically messaging me. Leo, what do you mean by this, Leo White? Answer the phone, explain yourself right now. Leo, don't ignore my messages, I'm scared. Don't you like me anymore? Aren't you going to keep supporting me? Leo, didn't you promise you'd always be my #1 fan? Stella Gordon's messages kept pouring in one after another, so I simply muted her chat and opened Twitter. The article I just posted has skyrocketed to the top of Twitter trends, while there's still quite a few Stella Gordon fans hurling insults in the comments. Fortunately, there's no shortage of rational netizens speaking up. So Stella Gordon wants to have her cake and eat it too. Use someone up and then kick them to the curb. I'm really worried about our dear Julian's future as an Oscar winner. Upstairs, do you really think Julian Croft is any good? Our brother was just deceived. My heart aches for director White. Love shouldn't make you lose your head. I burst out laughing at this comment. Right, losing your head over love is truly unwise. Luckily, I've fully recovered now. The door was knocked at this hour. The only person who'd come looking for me would be Stella Gordon. I opened the door and looked at the furious Stella Gordon standing before me, finding it oddly amusing. 2 years before reuniting with Stella Gordon, she would never look at me with such eyes in my presence. She was always gentle, kind, forever a radiant sun. When did it all start to change? Probably from the moment statements like Stella Gordon can make her own way without Leo White began circulating online. She began to feel that I was limiting her acting career, that I was too controlling, that I was nothing special after all. During our worst argument, she even pointed at my nose and screamed at me. In the end, I was the one who had to carefully apologize and beg for her forgiveness. Leo, what the hell do you mean? Stella Gordon shoved my shoulder. I leaned against the doorframe without moving, watching her coldly before letting out a scornful laugh. What do I mean, Stella Gordon? You slandered me. Am I not allowed to defend myself? They have the right to know the truth. The truth? You just want to ruin me, is it? Because you're bitter about Julian and me going public. Leo White, I was just your puppet. Every kindness you showed me was only because of her. Stella Gordon snarled, her face contorted, but her words left me somewhat puzzled. Her who is she? Seeing my silence, Stella Gordon seemed to take it as encouragement. She lifted her chin and sneered, hit a nerve, didn't I? Leo, why did you really think I wouldn't know that girl in the white dress in your photo album? She's your real lover, isn't she? All your kindness and devotion to me were just because I resemble her. You were using me as her substitute. What era do you think this is still playing, this substitute trope? Leo White, you disgust me. Stella Gordon's eyes brimmed with moisture. Due to backlighting, the photograph couldn't clearly show the other person's face. So Stella Gordon thought it was someone else. I found it somewhat amusing. Because of this bizarre misunderstanding, she was determined to destroy all the efforts I had made before. The good reputation I had worked hard to build, the films I had painstakingly shot, the world I had created, she disregarded all of it. Indeed, so-called muses are only meant to exist in memories. Stella Gordon, consider this my mistake in judging you. I shut the door, leaving Stella Gordon to hurl curses outside. But late that night, our recorded conversation exploded across the internet. Those words were my mistake, but I only said them because I was in such pain. The person I trusted and was grateful to simply saw me as someone else's shadow. It turns out everything was just Stella Gordon's calculated scheme. 5. I have to admit, she's exceptionally skilled at manipulating public opinion. Within just a few hours, the online vitriol condemning Stella Gordon's ingratitude completely transformed into sympathy for her as a stand-in. Even if some netizens spoke up to point out the benefits Stella Gordon gained from this relationship, they would quickly be rebutted. The arguments used were nothing more than appeals to Stella Gordon's wounded maiden heart. I paid no attention to the escalating online discourse, simply turned off my phone and lay down in bed. I was exhausted, so exhausted that I desperately needed a good night's sleep. I had a dream about my brother for the first time in ages. Though we shared identical features, no one ever mistook me for him. Perhaps it was because he always wore a smile, no matter what obstacles he faced, no matter how painful things became, my brother kept smiling. Even when facing death, he didn't reveal the slightest trace of fear. He simply smiled, gently stroked my hair, and spoke his final words to me in that same tender voice. Leo, live your life well from now on, live it fully. In my dream, I saw the scene of my first encounter with my brother. I sat on a park bench watching a family of 3 laughing, not far away, the cold wind whistling through my tattered clothes. It was then that my brother walked toward me, his eyes held surprise, yet he didn't hesitate to kneel before me and look into my face. After a long silence, he finally spoke his first words. What's your name? I think I'm your brother. At first glance, I knew he was my brother. Later, when I asked him why, he said it was because seeing me sitting there like an abandoned puppy made him feel he should protect me. And brothers are always meant to protect their younger siblings. I woke up abruptly at dawn, images of my brother's final moments flashing before my eyes. It took me some time to suddenly realize the situation I was in now. I picked up my phone where calls and messages from others kept flashing on the screen, mostly urging me to check Twitter. Opening the messaging app, Stella Gordon's pin message stood out so prominently, and what she sent me was utterly disappointing. Leo, White, you forced me into this. Stella Gordon will never be anyone's stand-in. Looking back carefully, it seems there were signs all along. 3 months ago, Stella Gordon took on a reality show, met Julian Croft, and then gradually distanced herself from me. It's not that I never wondered why, but my upbringing in foster care made it difficult for me to confront others directly. Only now do I realize she must have seen the photos in my album. She never asked, and I never told her, because I always believed the past was behind us, and as long as Stella Gordon was by my side now, that was enough. I was mistaken. I told my assistant that I would hold a press conference in 3 days to put an end to this absurd farce. Most likely, it would also mark the end of my career. I planned to take a break for a while, just as my brother had wished, and see the world with this heart of mine. But to my surprise, I received a call from Julian Croft, who said he wanted to talk to me. I really don't think I have much to talk about with Julian Croft. Before everything happened, my impression of him was just that he was a famous male actor in the industry. But Julian Croft seemed quite insistent on this matter, and I didn't want to waste any more time on him, so I had no choice but to accept his invitation. Julian Croft invited me to a private restaurant with excellent privacy. When I arrived at the private room, he was already seated at the head of the table. Upon seeing me, Julian Croft flashed the kind of commercialized smile I detest most in this industry. Apologies, the paparazzi following me were a bit excessive. I hope Director White doesn't mind meeting here. I shook my head. After all, Julian Croft was famous, not just any restaurant would do. What do you want from me? He crossed his legs and leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing slightly. I know about a Director White, that so-called muse of yours at Stella. My hand trembled slightly before coming here. I had imagined many things Julian Croft might say to me, but never this. What are you trying to say? I dropped my previously casual demeanor and studied the man before me carefully. He was no longer one of those fresh-faced newcomers. Time had left only composure and serenity on this man, making him resemble aged wine, distinct and full of character. It was precisely because of this that Julian Croft's eyes seemed like bottomless pits, unfathomable and unsettling. Don't be nervous, Director White, he said. Stella is a promising talent, beautiful, young, and most importantly, she is naive. Julian Croft spoke the truth under my protection. These past 3 years, Stella Gordon had never been exposed to the filth of the industry. She was pristine, and only a clean slate like her could be painted with any color a director desired. This is what we call talent. Julian Croft let out a light chuckle before continuing. So I chose her. A sense of foreboding rose within me. What exactly are you trying to do? Director White, I'm no longer young. You know how fast Hollywood changes. How many people are eyeing my position? I list them one by one, using actresses to capture the audience's attention, leveraging relationships to manipulate a portion of the fan psychology. These are common tactics in this industry. The only pity is that Stella Gordon was too persistent. She had feelings for you. So I had no choice but to use an extreme method to uproot you completely from her heart. Julian Croft's tone was flat, as if he were discussing the most ordinary matter. Yet every word struck my ears like a sharp needle. I swallowed hard, my hands on my knees, clenching in a fist. So you're the one who made her misunderstand. Julian Croft raised an eyebrow, propping his chin on one hand. He didn't speak, but I already knew his answer. I stood up and strode over to Julian Croft, grabbing him by the collar and yanking him up from his chair. I could accept Stella Gordon harboring resentment toward me due to misunderstandings. I could even accept her falling in love with someone else, but what I couldn't accept was her becoming another man's plaything, a puppet to be controlled at will. Are you fucking insane? She is a human being. So what is her honor to be of help to me? Julian Croft's eyes showed neither fear nor guilt. There was only a satisfied smile. I raised my other hand to strike his face when the private room's door was pushed open from outside. Stop, Leo White, what are you doing? It's Stella Gordon. She pushed my body away and then stood in front of Julian Croft. That beautiful, stubborn face looked up at me, eyes filled with fury. Stella, listen to me. This man is lying to you. The one who lied is you. You wrote that woman into your script and then made me play her. Leo White, you disgust me. I suddenly found myself speechless. Stella Gordon's tone dripping with disgust toward me. Julian, are you okay? I'm fine. Sorry for meeting him behind your back. I thought I could convince him to apologize to you. Julian Croft had long wiped the smile off his face, tugging at Stella Gordon's sleeve like a wounded puppy. Let us go, silly, she shielded Julian Croft as they walked past me. I reached out and grasped her wrist. Stella, what if I told you it's always been you? Stella Gordon didn't pause her steps, merely scoffing. Leo, why do you think I'm an idiot? If it was me, why didn't you say so before? She walked away with Julian Croft, the warmth in my palm gradually fading. Why didn't you tell her? Because back then I was truly at my lowest point. I always wanted to present my best self to her, at least a version of me who achieved success rather than the broken man I once was. But now perhaps it's all too late. Stella Gordon, seemingly out of revenge for the day I nearly hit Julian Croft, has unleashed the tabloids to dredge up my past. Growing up in foster care, the petty thefts I committed to survive, and how I caused my brother's death, it's all being paraded online. The assistant saw the online comments and was fuming, muttering under his breath while trying not to let me hear. He was afraid it would upset me, but in truth, I'd been known for a while. If you want to curse, just curse. Holding it in his torture, the assistant put down his phone and sighed. Leo, are you really not planning to make films anymore? I took a sip of red wine and sprawled on the sofa. These years I'd earn enough to last me a lifetime. I'm done filming. I want to go out and see the world. Making movies is an output process, and after these 3 years, I can't keep producing anything new anymore. The assistant seemed to want to say something more, but ultimately remained silent. Yet when I turned back, I saw the mist clouding his eyes. I was slightly taken aback. Why are you crying? He roughly wiped the corner of his eye with the back of his hand, his voice muffled. It's nothing. I just feel regretful. You love film so much, Leo, and now you're just giving it up like this. And Stella, after all you've done for her these 3 years, she... In the end, the assistant didn't finish the sentence. I stared at the liquid swaying in my glass without speaking. Do I regret what I did for Stella Gordon? To be honest, I don't consider it paying the price for the dreams of my youth. What is more, if it weren't for Stella Gordon, I might never have entered this industry or become a director at all. It was simply because that little girl back then said she wanted to stand in front of the camera one day and make everyone fall in love with her. On the day of the press conference, many people came, most of them just chasing headlines, with only a few being my actual fans. Sitting on the stage, looking at the sea of faces below, I suddenly found it all rather laughable. The 16-year-old me would never have imagined that one day I could stand before so many people. Thinking about it, I suppose I should still be grateful to Stella Gordon. Thank her for helping me find what I truly love to do, and thank her for letting so many people see Leo White. I believe everyone is here today because of what happened on social media recently. The first thing I must say is that I have no so-called muse. If I ever did, it would probably be the 16-year-old Stella Gordon. I digitally enhanced that photo of Stella Gordon, restored her face, and projected it onto the big screen. As soon as I finished speaking, the murmurs in the auditorium fell silent. Probably because even they found it unbelievable. I lowered my gaze and recounted the entire process of how I came to know Stella Gordon, including matters concerning my brother. These were things I had desperately wanted to conceal before, but now that I spoke them aloud, it didn't seem so difficult after all. I became a director because of Stella Gordon, so that one day she could become the leading lady in my films. Many people used to say Stella Gordon looked her most beautiful through my lens, and that's because all my scripts, all my leading roles were written for her. But later, when she finally appeared in my frame again, she was no longer the person I had once hoped to see. I gazed at the flickering lights before me and smiled brilliantly. The heart beating in my chest belongs to my brother. He once told me he hoped I'd live an extraordinary life. Before I turned 30, I lived for Stella Gordon, and for films after that, I want to live for myself and for my brother's heart. I want to make movies anymore because my leading lady is already dead. The camera flashes stopped at that moment, and I saw my fans standing below me, their faces streaked with tears. This might be unfair to them, but it's a choice I had to make. Leo, in the silent surroundings, Stella Gordon's trembling voice was particularly clear. I don't know when she arrived or how much she heard, but none of that matters to me anymore. My gaze lingered on Stella Gordon for just a moment before I immediately turned to the other reporters, standing up to bow to everyone present. Thank you all for your companionship over these years. We'll meet again when the time comes. I turned and walked toward the backstage, the sound of Stella Gordon calling my name seeming to linger in my ears, but I didn't stop. There was no need to stay any longer. I was about to get into the car when Stella Gordon stopped me. She grabbed my arm, the corners of her eyes reddened as if she'd already been crying. Why wouldn't you tell me? I just looked at her, loosened my grip, and pulled my arm free. Was there any need? Besides, I told you that day in the private room, didn't I? Stella Gordon's intended accusation got stuck in her throat. Her lips quivered, and in the end, she just looked at me with hopeful eyes. Leo, the first no, I was wrong. Since that person is me, can we start over? I'll keep being your leading lady, okay? In the past, I would have thought this was because Stella Gordon couldn't bear to part with me. But now I can't even tell whether she wants me or just the status of being the heroine in my films. It's about fame, about status. I shook my head, not softening in the slightest at her show of vulnerability. I can't capture your beauty anymore, Stella. The only version of you I can film is your 16-year-old self. I got into the car, letting Stella Gordon repeatedly pound on my window. But the car didn't stop, driving off into the distance. The impact of this press conference was enormous. Twitter's trending topics were practically dominated by my name and Stella Gordon's. There were even many voices calling for Julian Croft to distance himself from Stella Gordon. I slapped my forehead, nearly forgetting about this matter. Given Stella Gordon's history of recording our meetings, how could I possibly meet Julian Croft unprepared? Thus the words spoken in the private booth became my final tweet. The same people who had just been clamoring for Stella Gordon to stay away from Julian Croft instantly fell silent. Passers-by certainly got an eyeful remarking what a match made in heaven they were. But none of that had anything to do with me. I bought a ticket for my cross-country road trip, starting the next day, ready to chase what they call the direction of freedom. When I opened the door the next morning, there was Stella Gordon crouched on my doorstep. She looked like she hadn't slept all night, her eyes streaked with red veins. Seeing me, Stella Gordon immediately stood up from the ground, but the sudden movement caused her blood sugar to drop, making her stumble. I just stood there without moving, letting her steady herself against the wall. "Leo, where are you going? Is that any of your business?" I had never spoken to Stella Gordon in such a cold tone before she pressed her lips together, still unable to get used to it. "Leo, must you do this? We didn't have to end up like this." Stella Gordon's self-righteous tone almost made me laugh in anger. "The one who led us to this ending has always been you, hasn't it? Stella Gordon, I don't regret meeting you nor helping you for 3 years, but even a baby would have learned to walk independently after 3 years. You can't keep clinging to me and sucking my blood forever." Stella Gordon's face turned deathly pale as she shook her head in panic, defending herself. "It's not like that, Leo. It's because I love you. Because I love you, that's why I got so angry, that's why I hated you." Love me, maybe there was some, but when that love became tainted by personal gain and lost its purity, the love had already vanished. "What about Julian Croft then? That was just to make you jealous." Stella Gordon's voice was rushed. I looked at that face, which had once constantly haunted my thoughts, but now no longer found it captivating. "Stella, I believe you once loved me, but what happened cannot be treated as if it never existed. How clumsy Julian Croft's lies were, we both know that perfectly well, yet you believe him nailing me to the pillory without even asking me a single question. This isn't love, because you didn't even have the most basic trust in me. You simply wanted too desperately to break free from my control. So, in your panic, you chose the wrong path." I no longer paid attention to Stella Gordon's expression, carrying my suitcase as I walked away. Later I heard that Stella Gordon waited at the airport for a long time that day, until she fainted from low blood sugar. Some were moved by her, others thought it was just an act. Either way, it had nothing to do with me anymore. I traveled to many places, saw many sights. When you're on the road, you don't think about those wretched things from the past. I had my brother's likeness painted into a small portrait and tattooed it on my chest as if he had never left me. Hollywood feels like a lifetime awaiting me now, but my assistant still works in that circle and occasionally updates me on the recent happenings of Stella Gordon and Julian Croft. Just as Julian Croft himself predicted, he gradually faded from the public eye. The roles he could land shifted from leading man to the protagonist's father, and every appearance still triggers netizens to dredge up old scandals with relentless fervor. The words he once said to me have been turned into all sorts of memes and jokes by internet users. As for Stella Gordon, she remained active on screen, yet after leaving my scripts and camera lens, the acting skills that fans once mythologized turned out to be merely average. Even her face had grown somewhat weathered with the passage of time. She pinned my name at the top of her Twitter profile, as if showcasing her undying affection. Unfortunately, few people bought into it. After traveling for a year, I returned to that city again, and happened to run into Stella Gordon during an outing. They appear to be filming a TV series. The director, whom I crossed paths with a few times back in the day, and who had always admired my work, invited me to observe on set. Having nothing better to do, I decided to tag along. Stella Gordon's character appeared to be some third-rate female role, standing there getting water splashed on her and slapped by the lead actress. The girl, who looked no more than 23 or 24, kept messing up take after take. Stella Gordon's displeasure became increasingly visible on her face. Anyone with eyes could see the girl was doing it on purpose. The director quietly told me she was actually my fan and had never liked Stella Gordon, a movie I personally crafted for Stella Gordon. As I left the set, I spotted Stella Gordon standing in the corner, hunched over, as if whispering something to the assistant director, looking pitifully meek. Her white dress had long since lost its original appearance. The wind blew through her hair as Stella Gordon turned her head and locked eyes with me. Her expression froze completely in that instant. I simply smiled and waved at her. The so-called muse, even if standing right before me now, can never return. She had already died at the age of 16 that year. The end.